Speaking of Florida, Alex Koenig, Communications Director for Marco Rubio's team, been listening along with us today from Florida. And Alex, good morning, and thank you for coming back here. What does this endorsement do to your candidate's possibility of staging what would be considered a comeback in this campaign, Alex?
Well, I think both candidates, all the candidates in this race are getting their fair share of endorsements. Nobody has more endorsements from governors, senators, congressmen, people here in Florida than Marco does. I think just about every statewide leader, every leader here in Florida is supporting Marco Rubio. And we have a lot of momentum heading into Tuesday's debate. I think that just grew last night. Marco had a fantastic debate. All of the reviews, everyone on Fox, Frank Luntz's focus group, everyone said that Marco won last night's debate. We saw the polls closing dramatically prior to the debate. I expect that's going to continue to happen. And we're very excited about the prospects for next Tuesday here in Florida.
Okay, here's what we got. Republican primary, Washington Post. I mean, this would seem to support your argument on screen. Trump's at 38%, Rubio's at 31%, so you got a difference of 7 points. However, in our poll that came out the day before, Trump at 43, Rubio at 20. That's a difference of 23 points, Alex. I mean, you can do the math, average them together, but it is clear that you trail in your home state. As it stands right now, that would be a do or die, correct?
There's no doubt that the polls have been all over the place. We've seen the polls all over the place throughout this race. Heck, on the day of the Iowa caucuses, there was a poll that said Trump was going to beat Marco there by 14 points. Of course, we ended up tying Trump effectively in Iowa. And the most accurate polls here in Florida show the race closing dramatically. And just as important, Bill, we're winning the early votes and we're winning the absentee votes. As of today, Marco is way ahead of Trump in terms of the votes that have already been cast. And I think as voters near making a final decision next Tuesday in the Florida primary, here's a very important thing that they have to consider. Any vote for anybody other than Marco is effectively a vote for Donald Trump, because Marco is the only candidate who mathematically can defeat Donald Trump here in Florida. So if you like Ted Cruz, if you like John Kasich, and you want to stop Donald Trump, you need to vote for Marco here in Florida on Tuesday, because he's the only one that can stop Trump.
Yeah, on this debate last night, some described it as civil. I think Trump described it that way. It seems, and I mentioned this an hour ago, that Trump was doing his rope-a-dope. I mean, he was Ali in the ring, and guys weren't quite sure how to respond to him. Now Marco Rubio has tried several different tactics, and none has proved successful to date. Has Trump's strategy confounded your own strategy on how to fight back with him?
Well, I think there's two things going on here. One is the media is just utterly fascinated by Donald Trump. I mean, I just sat in a chair here for 45 minutes while you showed an entire press conference where no news was made. The only news that was made was that Trump conceded that the public persona is different than the private persona,
but Alex,
which I think is actually reflected in the debates last night.
Listen, this wasn't just anyone who was coming out and supporting Trump. This was a former rival who's been in the game for the past 7 months.
Absolutely. Ben Carson's a good man, and they announced last night that he'd be endorsing him. And I have no quibbles with the media, covering your, if you're going to cover the race that way, that's fine. But I would just say, if you look at the debate last night, it was very substantive, and Donald Trump doesn't have a lot to say on policy. But what he does have to say is wrong. He was wrong on Israel last night. His Cuba policy is totally wrong. He says we don't need to reform Social Security. That's just wrong. He doesn't recognize the debt crisis facing America. 2 weeks ago, he didn't know anything about health care policy. We still don't know what he would do as president. And contrast that with Marco Rubio, who has been crystal clear about what he would do with America if he was president, how he would lead America into a new American century. We have detailed policy plans on our website at marcorubio.com. Donald Trump just simply doesn't have that.
And that is up to him to make that case. And contest after contest, voters have not agreed with that. Last point here. This is what we did in our Fox polling, right? Among those, early voting started days ago in Florida, as you know. Among those who already voted, Trump's at 47%, Marco Rubio's second at 22%. Among those who have yet to vote, we find Trump at 41% and Rubio at 19%. That's a 25-point difference on the first category, a 22-point difference on the second category. So I'll give you the last word. How do you close the deal in Florida come Tuesday?
Well, we're ahead right now in terms of the early votes, the absentee votes, as you just noticed. We have the momentum going into Tuesday. I think last night's debate was a big moment for our campaign. Voters saw what they knew from the start, that this is a generational choice about what kind of country America is going to be in the 21st century. Is this going to be a country that where our kids can do for them what Marco's parents did for him, or is this going to be a country where we end up looking more like the rest of the world? There's a lot at stake of this election. Marco Rubio is the only candidate who has put forward detailed ideas for how to create a new American century. He's the only candidate that can beat Donald Trump here in Florida. I think voters have a lot to decide in the next couple days.
We shall see. Alex, thank you for your time, and thank you for being patient. By the way, we did take Carly Fiorina 2 days ago when she endorsed Ted Cruz. Alex, thank you. They're live in Miami.